The sword of God Khalid ibn AI-Waleed was a born soldier. He was the most genius, undefeated military general in the history. Khalid, who already enjoyed fame as a skilled and fearless fighter among his Quraysh clan, understandably aligned himself against the Prophet Muhammad. The first military encounter in which Khalid showed his genius was the Battle of Uhud. In the Battle of Uhud, Prophet Muhammad placed a group of archers on a nearby hill to give protection to the back of the Muslim army with specific instructions not to leave the posts under any circumstances. However, when the battle proved initially to be in favor of the Muslim army, the archers forgot the orders of their commander and left their positions. At this juncture, the military genius of Khalid ibn AI-Waleed led him to take a band of fighters with him around the hill and attack. The Muslim army from the rear where the least expected the enemy, hence the loss on the part of the Muslims became a great one. The Prophet was wounded and his uncle himself killed, along with many other distinguished companions of the Prophet. Although he fought against Muhammad at Uhud 625, Khalid was later converted and joined Muhammad in the conquest of Mecca in 629. Thereafter, he commanded a number of conquests and missions in the Arabian Peninsula. With Khalid ibn AI-Waleed joining the camp of Muslims gained a true military genius who was both an excellent strategist and a fierce fighter and army commander. The first battle in which Khalid won the day for Muslims was the Muslims' first encounter with the Byzantine army in the Battle of Mu'tah on the northern borders of the Arabian Peninsula. Due to the dangerous nature of the battle, Prophet Muhammad chose 3 commanders to succeed on another. The reason for sending these fighters was that the Byzantine rulers in the Syrian region had killed some Muslim missionaries. Byzantine army proved to be too large in number in comparison with the small number of Muslims. Yet the Muslim army never hesitated to enter the battle. The 3 commanders were killed and the banner was about to fall on the ground when Thabit ibn al-Arqam rushed to save it. He took it to Khalid, telling him that he gave it to him because he was more knowledgeable in matters of war. In the beginning, Khalid refused because he felt Thabit was more worthy of leading the army due to his age and service to Islam, but he accepted at Thabit's insistence and the unanimous consent of the fighters. The battle was not in favor of the Muslims due to the huge number of the Byzantines and the death of the 3 commanders appointed by the Prophet. The only way to save the day was to retreat, but that was almost impossible since the Muslim army was surrounded, outnumbered and outmaneuvered by the well-trained Roman forces. The Muslim army was on the verge of defeat. In that tough situation, the genius of Khalid ibn AI-Waleed was seen at work. Despite the extreme difficulty of the situation, he reshuffled the right and left flanks of the Muslim army and introduced forward a division from the rear in order to cast fear in the hearts of the Byzantine army. At that point, Khalid assumed command. Grasping the desperation of the situation, he took desperate measures. First, he launched a lightning strike against the Roman flanks, disrupting their charge and momentarily draining their momentum. He ordered his archers positioned at high ground to stop the Byzantines from advancing. Strategy was effective as the Romans retreated and camped just outside of the archers' range for the night. Knowing that he had merely bought some time and that the enemy forces would soon resume the attack, Khalid broke his army into small groups, placed them at different points, and ordered them to arrive at the Muslim camp at different times during the day. This created the illusion that more and more Muslim reinforcements were arriving, caused the Byzantine army to panic and retreat. Clever planning and courageous fighting, Khalid managed to make an opening within the lines of the enemy through which the Muslim army managed to get out safely. Said that in the intense battle that ensued, he broke 9 swords. Upon hearing that, Prophet Muhammad conferred upon him the title of the Sword of God. Eastern and Western historians have not only lauded Khalid's penchant for quick hit and run attacks and skirmishes rather than the traditional heavy infantry and cavalry prevalent in Arabia at that time, but also credit him with being one of the first generals to make effective use of psychological warfare. On his return to Medina, Muhammad appointed Khalid as a commander of the Muslim army based on his military prowess and gave him the title of Saifullah, Sword of God. Until Muhammad's passing in 632 AD, Khalid helped the Muslims capture Mecca, Yalamlam, and Tabuk, thus solidifying the Islamic State under Muhammad. After 632 AD, Khalid took the helm of the Muslim army under the Abu Bakr, a close companion of Muhammad, who was appointed Caliph of the Muslim state after Muhammad's demise. In this period, some tribes around Medina and Mecca discontinued their allegiance to the Muslim state. However, some people from these tribes, claiming that they were the new prophets of Islam, rose to power. Abu Bakr realized that these claims to prophethood could dismantle the nascent Islamic state and hence sent Khalid ibn AI-Waleed to dispatch these false prophets in what came to be known as the Ridda Wars. So Abu Bakr formed an army which he wanted to lead himself. He divided the army into 11 divisions with a commander for each. One of those divisions was put under the command of Khalid ibn AI-Waleed, who won all the battles entered by his army. The most dangerous to be met with was that in which the Muslims had to fight Musaylama, the fake prophet, who formed the largest army of apostates. Caliph chose Khalid for the assignment of fighting Musaylama. In the beginning, a large number of Muslims were killed. In that, Khalid went up to the top of a nearby hill and studied the situation to discover the weak spots of the enemy. He then reorganized his army, The battle raged furiously and Muzaylama was killed. With that, Khalid finished off the danger of apostasy and apostates in the Arabian Peninsula. But this was only the beginning of the many tasks which Abu Bakr assigned to Khalid ibn al-Walid and which he successfully carried out. Abu Bakr knew that the two hostile emperors on the borders of the peninsula had to be confronted and tamed. There was no better man for the job than Khalid. Abu Bakr gave orders to Khalid to proceed to Iraq, which was then a part of the Persian Empire, which he liberated for its people who were subjugated by the Persians. The Roman Emperor Abu Bakr sent armies under the command of distinguished companions of the Prophet such as Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah and Amr ibn al-As. The Roman Empire prepared a huge army whose news was sent to Abu Bakr. His answer was that Khalid ibn al-Walid, who was ordered to go to Syria to take charge. However, with his intelligence and experience, Khalid realized that the former commanders might not be happy with the decision of the Caliph. He suggested that he, along with others, take command by rotation. After a careful analysis of the situation and a study of his enemy, Khalid laid down a very careful strategy. Since the Muslim army was outnumbered and the Romans were better equipped and experienced, there were also many new converts from the region. Khalid was afraid that a couple of soldiers might try fleeing, which would have a devastating effect on the morals of his army. To avoid such a situation, Khalid ordered that Muslim women be armed too and wait in the rear. They were given orders to kill anyone who might attempt to flee from the battle, something which is considered treachery and a major sin in Islam. Battle was a very fierce one, but with the unlimited faith and conviction and with the thirst for martyrdom, the Muslims fought fearlessly. Extent that with a band of only 100 fighters, Khalid faced a whole division of many thousand Roman soldiers. The genius of Khalid fascinated many Roman commanders, which led all of them at a lull of the fight to call out for Khalid. Fought his last battle in Mesopotamia at Firaz against 60,000 soldiers of the combined Persian and Roman army. Persian-Roman army had to cross the Euphrates to get to the Muslim forces, and as soon as they did so, Khalid used his light infantry to flank the enemy, capture control of the bridge, and envelop the enemy forces into a pincer movement. Muslims emerged victorious at Firaz, and thus the conquest of Mesopotamia was complete. While legend of Khalid's military brilliance grew in Mesopotamia, he would not stay there for long as he was ordered by Abu Bakr, the Caliph, to march to Byzantine-occupied Syria. According to Islamic historians, Abu Bakr had invaded Syria with 4 armies with a combined strength of 28,000 men, but failed to capture important urban centers because of the large concentration of the Byzantine armies. Took 9,000 men with him to aid the Muslim forces already posted in Syria, and on his way defeated the Byzantine forces at Aznadain near modern-day Israel and fell. Remnants of the Byzantine forces retreated to Damascus, where the combined Muslim army laid siege in August 635. Each of the 5 commanders were put in charge of a gate to the city. Popular narrative dictates Khalid got news that the Byzantines were celebrating the birth of a nobleman's son, and he used his opportunity to breach the eastern gate and kill the guards. Another Muslim contingent entered through the western gate after peacefully negotiating a surrender agreement. In September, Damascus surrendered and the Muslim empire expanded into Syria. Khalid's greatest victory against the Byzantine Empire came at Yarmouk in 636 AD under the second Caliph Umar. Now, Khalid had established himself as the greatest commander in Islamic history and an unrivaled tactician, so perhaps it comes as no surprise that the Muslim army under Khalid was able to deflect attacks from a much larger Byzantine host. Walter Gendra, in his book Militarism in Arab Society, assesses that the Battle of Yarmouk was one of the most important battles of world history, as it led to subsequent Muslim conquests between the Pyrenees and Central Asia. Khalid was the first Arabian military leader to meet the Persian and Roman superpowers head-on and be victorious in all conflicts. Conquests serve as a blueprint for future conquests by the second Caliph Umar. However, in 638, soon after his victory at Yarmouk, Umar relieved Khalid from his position as the supreme commander of the Muslim armies because of his failure to coordinate his actions with the leadership in Medina. Sources state that Umar was uneasy with Khalid's legendary reputation among Muslim armies and feared that they would start looking up to him instead of God for help during battles. As Caliph Umar himself explained, "Not dismissed Khalid because of my anger or because of any dishonesty on his part, but because people glorified him and were misled. I feared that people would rely on him. I want them to know that it was Allah who does all things, and there should be no mischief in the land." Khalid ibn al-Walid was born in 585 AD in a noble Meccan family and died in 642 AD in Homs, Syria, where he is also buried. Khalid ibn al-Walid's name is a household name in the Middle East, and he was more than a military man. He was an astute army leader and a strategist and participated in over 50 military campaigns and never lost one. He left his imprint on the rapid rise of the Islamic Caliphate after the death of Prophet Muhammad. Many of his observations about life and war have passed into history and are often repeated by folks in the Middle Eastern countries.